heavy metal perspective. From Danzig to Death, to Dark Throne to Dr. Shrinker. Buckle up, things are about to get heavy. This is the Metal Podcast. Let's rock and roll.
And welcome to the Metal Podcast, bringing you diverse guests and hot topics. I am DJ, and joined with me always is AC, the man behind the mask. How are you today?
I'm very good. And just so everyone's clear, we are not sponsored or affiliated with the clothing store Hot Topic.
No, we're not. And we do have a very special guest today coming from across the pond, as they say, in Germany, Mr. Patrick Fleischer of Antirope. We're really pleased to have you today, and thank you for joining us. And how are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm fine. It's a beautiful day today, so perfect for an interview.
Yeah, and if you're just listening, he's got a very nice backdrop, very
it's just a poster.
Yeah, right. yes, and
is that a Rembrandt?
Sometimes, yeah. But it's modern. If wind comes, it moves a little bit. It's very modern.
Oh,
okay.
Wow! Yeah, I like technology.
It's a nice backdrop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too.
Now, what's that behind you? But so Patrick, I'm curious, what have you been listening to lately? Music wise.
I'm like a little bit stuck in the 80s and 90s. So I don't listen too much to modern metal. I'm more like still like Slayer, Megadeth, and all that stuff. So yeah, and I love bands like Neurosis. So that's my kind of music, and Neurosis, they don't do any album anymore, so I have to listen to the old ones. And Slayer, they don't do it.
Right.
No. But Slayer, I really prefer the old records, like Until Seasons in the Abyss, something like that. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, and from the new bands, there's a few that I like Gojira. Gojira is a great band, I think. But I'm really more into the 80s and 90s and even 70s. So yeah, that's my kind of music.
How do you feel about Undisputed Attitude?
I don't like this album too much. It's very punky.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like the heavy, dark Slayer songs.
Okay, what's your favorite of the first, we'll say, three?
Songs or albums? Album.
Yeah.
Rain in Blood.
Okay.
Rain in Blood is a masterpiece. I think it starts and until it finished, there's nothing bad. It's excellent. Still today, I don't know many bands who brought this aggression into an album.
Rain in Blood is one of those unique albums where, because of the praise it gets, you'd think it would be an overrated album, but it really is a perfect record. It's well produced. All the songs just kick you in the face, and it gives you breaks when you need, and it just lets off the gas enough so you don't get exhausted. Like breaks like Jesus Saves, and even the intro to Rain in Blood. It's just a perfect album cap.
It is, and it's so authentic. It doesn't, it really sounds like these guys played it live and had fun playing this record. I remember very well, I was a little kid when I heard it first, and I listened more to music like, let's say, like Kiss and Mötley Crüe, and then I got Rain in Blood, and I was like, what the beep is that? And so I thought, okay, I don't understand it in the beginning, but I have to listen it sometimes, and then and since this album brought me to the thrash metal and the heavier metal.
And it came out the same year as Peace Sells.
Yeah, Peace Sells, Master of Puppets.
And what? Puppets 86 or 85?
think it
I
was.
wasn't sure. I wasn't
I
sure.
think it's
Yeah.
86.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, the three these are one of my three favorite albums: Peace Sells, Master of Puppets, and Rain and Blood. And then 1 year later, Among the Living from Anthrax. Yeah, and I was a young kid, and this was amazing. It was just amazing. But even now, I love the spirit of these albums. Maybe because musicians had to to know how to play before they go to studio, not like today. Today, many bands, they go in the studio, they just play loops, and this is maybe why I don't like many production or so much, because there's a lack of emotion. So and yeah, in the 80s it was impossible to loop something. You had to play it, you had to perform it, and I still feel this energy.
Well, and the interesting thing about Rain and Blood is it's twice as many songs as Hell Awaits, but it's like 10 minutes shorter.
Yeah, when they recorded the album was 10 minutes longer, but they played it so fast, so it was only 29 minutes, they said in the interview. And this is maybe why it's so magic, because if you plan a record like being 40 minutes and then it comes out like 29 minutes, it means to me that you played it live.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure there's like one standout track on South of Heaven. I think it's called like Born in Fire, and that was supposed to be on Rain and Blood, and I think they just cut it because they just had too many songs.
Oh yeah, I think they could have added like 2 more songs, because 29 minutes is very short. But okay.
Well, when I first got into like aggressive music, I started on the punk rock route, and most of those albums, they had like 12, 13, 14, sometimes like 20 songs on them. So when the first metal album I listened to was Peace of Mind, like, and I'm talking like start to finish, and I was like, why are there's so few songs on it? And then I hear Revelations. I was like, this could have been like 6 songs. What are these guys doing? And then I just realized, oh no, those other guys, they just write songs that are a minute long because they're stupid. But Undisputed Attitude is my favorite Slayer album. But it's not a Slayer album. It's basically a compilation. But if I were to pick like from the early Slayer, because the Slayer sweet spot is Show No Mercy to Seasons in the Abyss. Hell Awaits is my favorite. I think that album is just so dark and it's so heavy. And Hell Awaits is one of the best openers of the 80s.
Yeah, it's a great opener. The songs are great, but the production of Rain and Blood was, I think, like
perfect,
exactly how Slayer should sound. Yeah.
No,
and the Undisputed Attitude, I don't think it's a bad album, but Slayer and punk for me doesn't fit. I like hardcore bands like Agnostic Front and Madball and Biohazard, but Slayer for me is metal. So of course there's always a punk attitude that brings the roughness, but Slayer for me is these melodic, heavy, dark, and fast tracks.
Well, I don't know if I ever really I think I might have elaborated on why I like Undisputed Attitude so much, because Undisputed Attitude is the best punk rock record ever recorded, because Slayer does punk better than any other punk band. Even though Slayer,
for sure,
they're not a punk band, but that's why I like it so much.
That's funny.
Punk is missing a little bit of edge, because we're gonna do an episode on punk rock pretty soon, and it's gonna be real good. But Slayer are there's people that kind of listen to something, not necessarily punk, but just something, and they take in through osmosis. So Slayer kind of fused punk with what they were already doing. So I knew some guys that knew Slayer before they were Slayer, when I think they were still called Dragon Slayer. And he said that they were trying to sound like Iron Maiden. They had like really mid-tempo, like slower songs. And because I think Tom Araya listened to like Deep Purple and like Jimi Hendrix, like that. He never listened to any metal, and then they just and then they just incorporated punk, and then it basically kicked everything up to 180 BPM, and then that's how Slayer was formed, because Slayer is the fast band. Like that,
it is. So
go ahead.
Yeah, so I will listen to Undisputed Attitude later today, because I think it's like 25 years or 30 years that I heard. No, 25. I think I heard it the last time. 96. Okay, so it's more than 20 years.
And especially
more than 25 years. Yeah.
Especially because that album is sandwiched between Divine Intervention and El Diablo Musica, which El Diablo Musica is one of the worst records by a good band. Yeah. And Divine Intervention, that's their black album, where you can really see like, ooh, they're really drifting away from Slayer. And then they just have this album. It's kind of like a reminder, like, no, we're still Slayer. We're just trying some other stuff. It's not like you would see Slayer live at that time, and they're not playing classic Slayer songs. They're just trying to stay relevant as far as record sales go. A lot of those bands just went through that period. The most notable one, I think, is Creator. I think Creator had the most awkward 90s years. Like, Endorama is so...
You think so?
I think Endorama is so bad. There's a song on it that I think is okay, but like, oh boy.
There's one album I love from them with a lot of hardcore influence. Renewal.
Renewal was, I think that was the mid 90s.
Yeah, I love this album.
I like the song Renewal.
Yeah, the song is cool, and the opener is great. I think Renewal was the second song.
Yeah, but Endorama is just, that's like, oh gosh, what a
I don't know this one.
It's so bad.
Terrible Certainty was the record, my first Creator record.
Well, that's a great record.
It's a great record. Yes, Toxic Trace, I think the name was from one.
Yeah, Toxic Trace.
Yeah, I like it, but it was a German band. I was more into the American bands, maybe because I am German. I don't know, but there was a great German metal album. From Destruction, the Mad Butcher EP. Do you know this one?
Oh yeah, I love Destruction.
With Reject Emotion was great. Great song.
Curse the Gods.
And I also liked Holy Moses. Do you know this band?
I've seen the name. I've never heard a single song by that.
Oh, you have to listen to the album Finish with the Dogs. It's amazing. It's so heavy. It's so fast and heavy and brutal.
Okay, they are a thrash band.
Yeah, but with a female singer that sounds like a man.
So Sabrina Klassen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And she was in a TV show. She looked beautiful back in the days. And then she had this death metal voice. That was kind of cool. I think when I was young.
No, I'll look that one up because in America.
But I still love this album. Finish with the Dogs. Really, get this one.
Okay, is that one of the first ones? No, it's
it's not the first one. No, third one, I think, or second one, maybe. Yeah,
second.
And then they did. Yeah, second, and then they did years later an album called Reborn Dogs, and this was excellent too. This was even more brutal.
Well, they went the Sodom route.
No, they have a very own sound. I think they were the guitar sound and the style how they played was really original. And they made also a progressive album called The New Machine of Liechtenstein, and this one was great too. Very different, not as brutal, but very technical and very. It's a great record too. So this band I think, is very underrated. And there's one more German band that is extremely underrated. It's Morgoth. Do you know Morgoth?
I do not.
No.
Oh, you should. There's an album. It's excellent. Let me see which one it is. It's really great. I listened to it last time because you were asking me, what do I listen? Yeah, I listen to some old bands. The second album of Morgoth. How is it called?
Is it Odium?
Odium. Odium, yeah, amazing. If you listen to Odium, you have to listen. There's a song. It's let me see.
Resistance, Art of Sinking, Submission.
Under the surface.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Well, in America, the German bands, it's basically just creator Sodom destruction. Like, not that other people don't know these other bands. It's just they're kind of Germany's answer to Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax.
Yeah, but worse, I think.
So, I don't know if they're worse than Anthrax.
You don't like Anthrax?
I don't like them as much as Creator, Sodom, or Destruction. I like one Anthrax album. I like Sounds of White Noise, and I think that is one of the best rock albums of the 90s. I think Anthrax really fails to do what all the other thrash bands of that era succeed at. They're not Testament, they're not Exodus, they're not Megadeth, they're not even Metallica. And I am not a fan of Metallica.
Okay, really? You don't like Master of Puppets?
I like Master of Puppets. I like And Justice for All. I like Kill 'Em All. I am not a fan of Ride the Lightning. I like Trapped Under Ice. I think that song is awesome. Fade to Black's okay. I think it's a little overplayed. Ride the Lightning is a good song. I don't really like For Whom the Bell Tolls or Creeping Death or Fight Fire with Fire. No, I'm not a fan. But the reason I don't like Metallica, I'll just say it to you because the audience has heard it a billion times, is what they did to mainstream metal, because they decided to bury metal just so they could have mainstream success. And they are the biggest hard rock band of all time. It's unquestionable, but they really buried their roots. And it's not just because they made those terrible albums, Load, Reload, Saint Anger, but they never took metal bands that needed support on tour. They always took like popular Hot Topic MTV bands to support them. Like they never took like Testament or Exodus. Yeah, like Kirk Hammett was in Exodus. Like they didn't. Why were they not taking Exodus on tour? Like why I understand them not taking.
Maybe because the Exodus drummer is so much better than Lars Ulrich. Maybe.
Well, that's true. Exodus is a much better band than Metallica, but it was all marketing and it was all business, and they had no reason to do it because And Justice for All already sold 3 million copies. So it's not like they were starving for success. They were already a successful band. They were the biggest metal band. Probably not the biggest. Judas Priest and Iron Maiden were probably bigger, but they were at least the biggest American band at that time.
I think Metallica is the biggest, let's say, all-in rock band in the world.
Yeah. I'm just saying in 1988, like perhaps Priest and Maiden might have been bigger at the time, but in America, Metallica, like they didn't need to just abandon thrash metal. And it's fine to change, but they didn't just change. They kind of, because they cut their hair and they started dressing different. James Hetfield I did
the same.
Well, sure, of course, but like they abandoned, we all did, but they just like left it behind. James Hetfield singing country songs, and it's fine to do stuff like that, but they didn't go back to record a thrash song until like 72 Seasons, and even the song that they put in there, that like Aeon or X Eternal, I don't even remember something. It's not even that good of a song, but it took them that long. Like, Megadeth made Terrible Risk and really bad World Needs a Hero, but The System Has Failed is a quality metal record. Like, a lot of these bands tried.
I think Metallica, they lost the magic a little bit with the death of Cliff Burton, because even if And Justice for All might be a good record if there would be bass on it, the songs are not arranged well. It's many parts, and sometimes the parts, for my taste, doesn't fit to each other. It's like constructed. So when Cliff Burton was there, it was never constructed. So I think that Cliff Burton had much more influence. He was the oldest one in the band, and the other one were the young guys. And I think he had a big influence on the Metallica sound, how to arrange a song. Because if you listen to the first 3 albums, there's never a part that seems like they just put it in. There was always a nice flow. Listen to songs like, I don't know, Master of Puppets. It's a very long song with like quiet parts and heavy parts, but everything flows perfectly. And since Cliff Burton is dead, I think they had to find themselves again. Yeah. So Justice for All, they tried to be progressive, but I don't think it was really progressive. It was kind of, but not really. And then with the Black Album, they had the help of Bob Rock, who made a pop rock, hard rock album. Yeah. But when you listen to all other Metallica albums, they always tried something else. Like suddenly the snare had to sound like a cheap can, and yeah, and so they always try to reinvent themselves. So it's different on Megadeth. Megadeth, it has always been Dave Mustaine, and Dave Mustaine made strange things too. But I think it was always Megadeth. And as you said, Anthrax, the sound of white noise. This was not a metal album to me.
No.
But I think Anthrax is the only band of all those bands who never made a bad record. Even I love the Worship Music album. I don't know if you know this one.
No, I stopped listening to it at that point because I'm a big John Bush fan, and I like that era of Anthrax. I call it's like 90s rock. It's kind of like Alice in Chains style.
Exactly.
That's basically what it is. That's why I say Sounds of White Noise is one of the best rock albums of the 90s. It's not a metal album. It's like a dark rock is the best way to put it.
It's a great rock album, but it's not Anthrax for me.
No.
I love this Among the Living, this typical Scott Ian riffing, and then with a voice that was really like back in the days didn't fit to the music, to the riffing. Yeah, but it fitted. But that was like freaky. I like when styles are mixing, like Faith No More. I like Faith No More a lot because there's a lot of influences. But of course, if you want the classical thrash metal, Anthrax wasn't.
Except for the first album.
Yeah, except for the first album. Yeah,
and that kind of highlights my entire problem with Anthrax is I don't like Joe Belladonna with those riffs. It just like he needed to be the singer for like Queensryche or something like that. That's what he sounds like. And then Fistful of Metal, the singing is so bad that it's like really one of the worst singers. It's just the screams are so excessive. And it does kind of ruin that record because I think those are the best riffs that Anthrax has had. Like Death Rider is such a cool song, and just interrupting every 30 seconds. Oh, goodness gracious. But when Worship Music was being recorded, I don't remember the singer's name, but DJ and
there was another one.
Yeah, DJ and I saw him live, and I thought he was terrible. And I was like, oh no, this guy this is going to be bad. But then they announced some contractual reason for he was in some other band and he wasn't allowed to record with another band for some reason. And then they said that John Bush was going to come back. I said, okay, finally, because I've never seen Anthrax with John Bush and I've always wanted to see that lineup. And I wanted to hear another record because when they pushed John Bush and Rob Chiago out for Dan Spitz and Joe Belladonna, it felt so forced because it's not like Megadeth getting back together where Megadeth hadn't recorded a record in a few years, and like Chris Poland being back in Megadeth for The System Has Failed. Like it feels like, oh look, this is something happening. And it felt like Anthrax was trying to do that same thing, but they already had an active lineup that was still putting out albums. And then they kicked the guy out. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, sorry. No, but I think John Bush didn't fit to Anthrax. When I listen to live tracks, when he's singing like songs like Caught in a Mosh or Among the Living, it doesn't fit. So, but of course, it depends on how you grew up. My first Anthrax album was Among the Living and then Spreading the Disease. So it wasn't even Fistful of Metal. So I like this crossover between the voice and the music because I loved. I grew up with Kiss, so it's more like rock than metal. And then when I heard Slayer, I went into thrash metal. And Anthrax was a nice mix for me for this heavy music, but still melodic vocals. So John Bush, he was fine on songs like on his debut with the Anthrax, The Sound of the White Noise, but on all tracks, he didn't fit. And I think the worship music is a great record. If you don't think about what happened, if you just listen to the record, I think it's better than what Slayer, Metallica, and Megadeth did in this time, in the new age.
Yeah, I've heard that, and
because the songwriting is great. When Hanneman died from Slayer, you just had Kerry King songwriting left, and that was, I think, kind of boring. I think the Hanneman songs were the great ones. But of course, all this is a question of taste. So there's no good and no bad. I like this album, you like another one, so that's fine. You know what I mean?
Do you like Morbid Angel?
Yeah. Blessed Are the Sick, and no Morbid. Yeah. Blessed Are the Sick.
That's the second one.
Blessed. Yeah, but there was one more with the da na 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 na. How is it called? This record?
Are you talking about Covenant?
Dawn by the Angry or
Dawn by the Angry is on Domination.
Yeah. Domination.
Yeah, Domination was amazing. Too overproduced for my taste. It sounded a little bit soft, but the songs were amazing.
You know, it actually sounds like a lot of mid-90s metal, like At the Gates or like Akercock. That's what the production sounds like. And that may have been kind of the beginning of that type of production. Because I agree, a lot of, especially modern metal, it's all way overproduced. But the point I was going to make is I understand that sentiment because I like the Steve Tucker records. I like Formulas and Formulas, I liked it, but to me, it's mostly just like, oh yeah, that was good, and I don't need to listen to it again. But Gateways to Annihilation is a very good album. But when you hear Steve Tucker, like when he sings his songs, it sounds good. But when he sings David Vincent songs, something just feels a little off. Like it's like, this is not the same. I understand that. But I think the biggest problem is, and it's evident by the Greater of Two Evils record that Anthrax did, where they re-recorded Joe Belladonna songs with John Bush singing.
I didn't like this one.
They started playing the songs like they were John Bush songs. Yeah, it's not as good. Exactly. It's not like they're just re-recording them, because the best re-recording, and critics pan it, but I think, they can, shove things where the sun don't shine, is Testament's First Strike Still Deadly. That is one of the best records I've ever heard. It's just a re-recording of like the first two, or albums from the first two songs. But it's awesome to hear a well-produced version of Alone in the Dark with Steve Souza singing, or even Reign of Terror from their first demo, just with a modern production. And it's just so heavy, and it's mixed so well. Because my problem with the First Testament record is the production is so hollow.
Yeah, very bad.
It's very raw.
It's like
I don't know. I know.
It's bad.
I have to say something. I know every metal fan loves Testament, but I bought records. I bought the Legacy. I bought the New Order or something. Yeah, and I listened to them. And I like the soli, the Over the Wall. I like this song. And I like especially the solo of Over the Wall.
Yeah, that's my favorite solo.
Yeah, it's an amazing solo. But I don't know why, but the voice was always like on one note. So this was a little bit, I don't know. I loved Over the Wall, but I didn't love Testament so much like all others do. I read always in the internet, Testament should be one of the big four, Not for me, but of course, this is a question of taste.
Of course.
Yeah, I think with Testament, Chuck Billy's singing suits them better on like their death metal records, like The Gathering.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
like maybe,
that. But because when he tries to like quote unquote sing, because he does try to hit some high notes, it doesn't mesh as well. And then with Exodus, it might be a little too extreme for some people. But with Testament, I think like The Gathering is one of my favorite albums. I think it's just
I have to check it out. I didn't listen to this one.
Okay.
I know Low or Practice What You Preach.
Yeah.
I know, but maybe I liked Over the Wall so much that everything else.
It is an amazing song.
It's amazing. The start riff is amazing.
Listen to First Strike, Still Deadly. The solo in Over the Wall from First Strike, Still Deadly is my favorite lead of all time. But
let me check it out. First Strike,
Still Deadly, and it's just First Strike is deadly on the Legacy. It has no oomph because the production is so bad. But here it just like kicks you in the teeth. And it makes you smile first. It's so good. And just Over the Wall in that, Alone in the Dark, everything just sounds so great. And anyone saying, it's just, shut up.
I didn't know this album. There's Over the Wall on it. I have to listen to it.
Yeah,
it's right after the interview.
Yeah, they re-record it. Yeah, just listen to that. Because if for all the complaints you have about Testament, I think this is going to be more catered to you. Because the first Testament song I heard was Trial by Fire, which is not a great song. It's okay, because I'm not a big fan of the New Order. There's good songs on it. I think a lot of the songs on that album are good, but it wasn't until I heard Low that I was like, okay, this band is something special. And then when you hear The Gathering, like, oh, okay, so this is the band that everyone likes. Because the first two, they're just the first two. That's all it is. Like when people say the first one's always the best, it's those people, they like it on principle instead of actually, here's the songs, here's the arrangement, here's the production, here's the whole package. It's just like, well, it was the first one, so it's the most important. Shut up.
Okay, I have to listen to that one. Maybe I gave up too early. I think I gave up with Practice What You Preach. Practice something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Practice.
The third album, I think. Yeah, Practice What You Preach. I think then I gave up because I don't know. I wasn't into the vocals, and maybe because when I heard Over the Wall the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect song. And I never heard a song like that from Testament again. So they couldn't. All other songs were worse, but maybe I should really listen to this re-recording and to The Gathering. Maybe I like these ones.
Yeah, so that's a good back-to-back record, because the Gathering, Testament did the opposite of what those other bands did in the 90s, where the other ones tried to get a little more mainstream, more melodic. Testament went the other way. They just got heavier and heavier, and The Gathering probably gave them the idea, like, our old songs don't hit like they did when they first came out. We need to make them sound like The Gathering. And that's what First Strike Still Deadly is.
Yeah, I will listen to it. But sometimes I think it's cool when very heavy bands get more melodic, like Carcass with, how was it called?
Artwork?
The
Swan
album,
Song?
Swan Song, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I love it. It's like, but I love all Carcass album, even the Necrotism, especially Necrotism.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Mine too.
Yeah,
but it's an amazing record. But Swan Song, they did something new. I never heard this kind of music before. It's like death rock, like. And
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I love it. So, because bands are doing death metal or they're doing rock, but death rock like they did on Swan Song. I never heard this style. I also loved what Entombed did. They were a death metal band too, with Left Hand Path,
and Clandestine.
And then exactly, and then Wolverine Blues came.
Wolverine Blues, yeah.
And this album, for me, it was magic. It was like with hardcore influence and like some Neurosis influence into the music. So I think it's an amazing album. So sometimes I think bands want to try something else because if you listen to AC/DC, AC/DC is a great band, but yeah, you don't need all albums. You know what I mean? And,
You just need one.
yeah,
It's all pretty much.
okay.
Well, I can. You need two. You need one Bon Scott and
Yeah.
one Brian Johnson, and then
Exactly.
otherwise it's all the same. Get Back
Yeah,
in Black and what's oh my gosh, what's the one?
I
with
would
Sin
say
City?
Highway to Hell and
Power Rage. No,
because
Power
of
Rage. Get Power Rage.
Power Rage is good. Yeah, I would say Highway to Hell and For Those About to Rock. These two are fine.
And so is High Voltage.
Yeah, High Voltage is excellent. Yeah, you're right.
They're all the same.
Okay.
All the Bon Scott albums, all the songs are good, but that's the kind of the joke is they're all kind of the same album, just the songs are slightly different.
Yeah,
What blues rock arrangement do you want?
And same with Motorhead. I love Motorhead, but for me, I didn't buy any Motorhead album after 1916. I think this Orgasmatron rock and roll 1916 was great, but then it was again and again the same story. So I can listen to some old Motorhead because the old ones, I think they're all great.
Yeah,
well, the old Motorhead.
Motorhead, it's like what we talked about with Judas Priest. There's not a bad record in that discography. It doesn't mean that every record is like 10 out of 10, but you're not going to listen to a Motorhead record and go, "Oh my gosh, this is awful." You're not going to, but
never.
Motorhead, yeah, that is a good comparison to AC/DC, where it's basically the same record, just the songs are slightly different.
Exactly. So this is what I like. If some death metal bands like Carcass do an album like Swan Song, or Entombed like Wolverine Blues, so they just want to get out of where they are and try something different, but then go back. Or Napalm Death with the Diatribes. You know this album from Napalm Death?
Is Diatribes
with the song Greed Killing.
Does it have the Plague Rages? Is that one on there? The Plague
maybe
Rages in all our hearts. I think so.
It's with the Greed Killing.
And it has Curse to Crawl. There are meeting. Fragile peace exists inside. Fed so shallow. So narrow minded.
Even
I like that album.
Death.
I like that album.
Yeah, they tried something else, not like AC/DC and Motorhead.
Well, I mean, you're skipping ahead. How about Napalm Death just doing like From Enslavement to Obliteration?
Which one?
Like the album after the second one, like just going from You Suffer or Your Achievement to Suffer the Children, and like having like actual like structure to their songs.
Yeah, okay, but this is a normal development, evolution.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying like them going from Scum to just being like a death metal band. But the Diatribes and like Words from the Exit Wound, they're more like mid-paced, like 90s rock, but with just Barney singing. So it just
with the very heavy vocals.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You have what I love about Napalm Death. Just saying is they have a very special groove, and it doesn't matter what they play. It's always this brutal own groove, and this I love this when a band has a signature groove, and Napalm Death is is very groovy. Yeah, they're not like just quantized, not at all.
Napalm Death is kind of like the what do you call it? When I get not an oddity, but like something that stands out, because most grindcore is actually just like it's just noise.
Yeah,
but Napalm Death is a band with actual structure. And there's a little more to it where I think like Napalm Death pretty much can't be a grindcore band. Same with like Cryptopsy. Like they're basically
No.
not grindcore bands. They call themselves that, and I think it's just because of how fast the drum beat is. But for the most part, they're not. I mean, they got riffs there. They got bridges. They have choruses.
Exactly. And they have a groove.
Yeah.
You don't need a groove for all kind of music. Of course, rock music needs a groove. If you listen to Fear Factory, there's no groove. It's like computerized. But Napalm Death is the only death metal band I know that are very, very groovy. And that's crazy to bring this groove into this kind of music. So I appreciate this. So I have a huge respect of Napalm Death. I saw them live. They have the same groove live. So it's really their signature sound. And it's a great band.
Did you see them somewhat recently?
No. That was Utopia Banished tour. So very long time ago.
So that's their second death metal album, because the first two albums are pretty much noise. And then
Harmony Corruption was before, right?
Harmony Corruption's the first death metal album. The first two are Scum and then From Enslavement to Obliteration. But after From Enslavement to Obliteration, no, it's produced terribly and the songs are awful. That's what that's grindcore. And the crazy thing about From Enslavement to Obliteration is the singer is Lee Dorian, who's actually a genuinely good singer.
Right. Yeah.
Cathedrals, and then he forms Cathedral, which is the opposite of Napalm Death. The songs are super slow. They have structures, a lot going on, and he's a great singer.
Yeah, absolutely. But Barney, he has a real personality. When I was in Munich at the concert, like the whole audience was only Barney, and everybody was shouting Barney, and he was like a star in the Napalm Death. I was wondering, like, oh my God, did I miss something?
Yes. So yeah, I met him years ago, and I met them on a bad day. Would just say they had a lot of technical difficulties on one of their tours, and I've met Shane Embury a few times, and you could tell that he was just not having a good day, and rightfully so. But Barney was very, very nice to me. I was very surprised because a friend of mine, his band played a show with them, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, these guys were not cool." And so yeah, he was like, he was just raging in the back, and he was having problems with it was like tour related stuff. So I was just like, oh gosh, and they're having a bad day. He's going to be a total dick. But no, he was nice. I was surprised.
Professional.
Yeah, well, he wasn't just professional. He was very nice. DJ, did you see Deicide with us?
No, but I did just see Cannibal Corpse.
Well, it's it's similar.
I saw Cannibal Corpse too.
Yeah.
Sorry to say,
no, go for it.
Cannibal Corpse. It was like fun. It was
fun.
Yeah.
No, I just went in I think in May, and like I don't know when you saw them, but I was just amazed at Corpse Grinders like headbanging like the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, like they bring the energy. Like I've never seen a pit that big. It was wild. It was fun,
Oh, the Cannibal Corpse pit was the most fun pit I've ever been in. Cannibal Corpse is also like AC/DC and Motorhead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything's the same. They never evolved.
Yeah. I will add an asterisk. The first 3 albums are different. One is like really like first four. Like the first one is just super raw. Like we don't quite know what sound we're going for, but we know we want violent lyrics. Butchered at Birth is much darker. The one, oh my gosh, Tomb of the Mutilated. I don't like the vocals on it, but that's kind of like, all right, let's be a little more consistent with our songs. And then the Bleeding is just, it's kind of like, this is a death metal record. This is what death metal sounds like. And then from then on, they're all just kind of the same.
Yeah, I was, for me, Cannibal Corpse was more like fun to watch live. But the albums, I think there's metal bands, death metal bands with a more serious timing, let's say it like this.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so
Cannibal Corpse is like, it's like AC/DC. Like AC/DC,
Yeah.
everyone kind of goes like, oh yeah, AC/DC is great, but you're going to find more Led Zeppelin or Van Halen fans, even though I think
Yeah.
AC/DC, for all the reasons we said earlier, are a much more consistent rock band in terms of like quality and songs, but they don't get the admiration that, say, Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin or maybe even Kiss do.
Yeah, but Kiss was also a band that had many different.
Sure, I'm just talking about bands from that era, as far as like the praise. Yeah, like Cannibal Corpse is kind of like, they're like those bands.
Yeah,
You're gonna find more Morbid Angel or Vader or especially Death fans than Cannibal Corpse.
Oh, Death! I love Death. Death is one of those really technical, amazing death metal bands. Symbolic is an amazing album, I think.
Yeah, they kept getting more and more technical, as you know, and I guess you would call it progressive. But you know, I did really like,
definitely progressive.
Yeah, I definitely like Symbolic.
Symbolic! I still listen to it.
Oh, that's great.
Crystal Mountain got me into the band, but I do really love, like, Leprosy is probably my favorite album. But have you listened to Control Denied?
Control Denied.
Yeah, that's Chuck's band after Death.
Oh no, I never listened to it.
All right.
But I heard he made jazz something after that.
No, I don't know how to even describe it. It's, I guess, more progressive than The Sound of Perseverance. I like it, but the songs do sound very similar, and it doesn't have death metal vocals. Who is the vocalist, AC? I'm forgetting. Is it?
Oh, I don't remember that.
I forgot his name. Like,
that's you.
It should be me. I know he just passed away a few years ago, but yeah, Control Denied, the Fragile Art of Existence, is that what it's called? But yeah,
let's see here.
Yeah,
I'm checking.
So if you want
Google.
Yeah, check it out, because it's a cool album, and you get to hear
Tim Amer.
Amar, yeah, Tim Amar, or maybe you pronounced it right, but yeah, it's very.
But
different.
I like Death from the first album. Even
the first two are my
Scream Bloody Gore.
Yes.
Yeah. It's different. They're great albums too. Yeah, it's just more plain, not so technical.
It's death metal.
Yeah, but very brutal.
Death.
Chuck Schuldiner, he knows what he's doing. He's got something. He had got something special, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and I want to add on to that point, because when you're talking about like bands doing something different, like with, we'll say, Swan Song by Carcass, there's nothing wrong with doing that if you're good at it. See, I don't think Metallica is good at being all the other genres. And I think that's why I think a lot of bands don't try to branch out. Like Cannibal Corpse, like they know how to make Cannibal Corpse songs. That's why I think there was, never the Cannibal Corpse pop rock album, because they knew, like, okay, this is what we're good at. This is what we do.
Yeah, like, but Metallica, look at the movie Some Kind of Monster. They have like some identity crisis, I think. And
yeah. I think they're very conflicted. I believe. Well, that's why James Hetfield was in and out of rehab. Like, you could tell this dude who had everything, he's not happy. And like when you see him in interviews now, he's more happy talking about stuff from like the early 80s and like punk rock and thrash metal. That's what you can tell is the stuff that he likes. And then Lars Ulrich, like, that guy should be like on the board of directors for like V8, like Tomato Juice. Like, that guy is not a musician. He's not a metal guy. He is a committee guy. That's what he is. That's his contribution to Metallica, is like, okay, how do we maximize profits? And then the rest of them are just sitting there like with dumb looks on their face.
Yeah, but Lars Ulrich, he's not a good drummer.
No, he's not. Sure. He's not. He's nothing about it.
He's not at all. I just try to stay polite, but he's
Yeah.
So the
We
polite
don't on
way
the
to
show.
say is not a good drummer. But he's a creative drummer.
Exactly.
He invented these strikes, like playing with a guitar.
He's creative, like
strange drumming.
Like the guy from Def Leppard is creative.
Yeah.
Except I'd argue he's a better drummer. Even now,
he's a better drummer. I think everybody's a better drummer. So
there's hope for
difficult.
everyone.
Lars Ulrich, the only drummer he might be better than is Ringo Starr.
And the strange thing about Lars Ulrich is normally a drummer, more he's practicing, more he's getting better. But I have the impression that Lars Ulrich is he's gonna be so every record the drumming is worse.
Yes.
So of course maybe the producers.
Here's the thing.
Worse. And even the vocals of James Hetfield, I loved his vocals until And Justice for All. And it was really straight, like battery. And then in the Black Album, he started this singing. Yeah, and now he would sing like master, and before it was like master. So
there's some
this is, I think, this is so. Even now they have a magic life, even if Lars is playing shit, but. Now he's singing the old songs with a new vocal style, and I don't like this too much. But of course, this is a question of taste. I think Metallica did a lot to heavy metal. I think so. Even with their pop songs, they were always standing for heavy metal, even if they didn't do heavy metal anymore.
Now I'll disagree.
But live, they did.
I think in the beginning they definitely did, but they absolutely they buried it. Like they really like distanced themselves from it. Like, do you like Alice in Chains?
Yeah, I like Alice in Chains. Yeah, of course.
Have you seen their Unplugged performance, the MTV Unplugged? Okay, so they have on their guitars they have "Friends Don't Let Friends Get Friends" haircuts, and that's a jab at Metallica because there's like. They were at some red carpet event, and then they were all like groomed up, and they're wearing these like white suits, and they don't look like Metallica. And then so
I saw them in the white suits.
Yes,
I saw this
and they
on
all
MTV.
Yep,
when Limp Bizkit was playing Sanatorium.
Yeah, they're like my least favorite band.
Yeah. Who Limp Bizkit?
Yes.
It's not my favorite band, but as I'm a producer, like before, I was producing bands. I listen to music now different than when I was 15. For me, there's two sides. So it's the songwriting, the music, and it's also the performance. And I have to say, Limp Bizkit, I don't like them. I don't own any album, but I have a huge respect of their ability to have an amazing groove. So these guys are groovy. Even if they play Sanatorium, they play it with a excellent groove. So they are very good musicians, but it's not my kind of music, not at all. And I prefer more the darker music.
And I have no respect for Limp Bizkit, no matter what they do, because their music is crap and it helped ruin metal.
The music is crap, yeah, right. But
it also
how they perform.
But the problem is it warped people's perception of what metal is. So, and this is the my hatred of the Black Album, because metal is Rain and Blood, Peace Sells.
Yeah, of course.
Among the Living, Bonded by Blood. But then the Black Album came out, and then that's why we have Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, I don't think so, because this is why I'm saying I listen more to the old records of the 80s and the 90s, because nothing came out, but of course they came out great albums too, but not a lot. So like I said, the Gojira, the French band, I think they have a very own style of making metal nowadays, but I don't think that it's the fault of Metallica or Limp Bizkit. I think it's because like when you see the whole rock thing, starting from Jimi Hendrix, and then it evolved, and Black Sabbath came. It was dark, it was heavy, and then like Slayer and Metallica came. It was even heavier. You had the other side with the Hairspray bands, and suddenly nobody wanted this clean sound anymore. And then grunge was cool, like with this heroin style. So the music always changed, and especially the customers have changed. So nowadays, when you see the kids, they don't listen to extreme metal anymore. So if you go in Germany to a Metallica concert, you see people like the youngest one is like 40 years old. You see people between 40 and 60. You don't see these young kids anymore. And when you go then to a Slayer concert, I was at the last tour. The people are old too. So yeah, so I wouldn't say one band is guilty that metal is like not as popular as before. I think it's also the industry, because when
the industry is at fault. Yes.
Yeah, because when you were a record label, you had if you look at all the stories of the band, how Anthrax or Slayer got their first record deal, so there was people investing in these bands, because you have a lot of, still today, for sure, you have a lot of great metal bands that nobody knows because nobody's investing. So in the 90s, so I would say you needed like at least to really to build up a rock band, you needed like, let's say $500,000 with the production, with everything, marketing, and they found out in the 90s that techno music, an album costs like $1,000. So you make like 500 techno albums, like electronic music, and even if 3 do sell well, you have earned more money than if you invested like in 3 metal bands. 3 metal bands will cost you like 1.5 million, and maybe only one has a success, but 500 techno acts, and you have invested the same money like in one rock band, and you make like 3 times more money. And I think that's the problem. It's the music business, like we see it in everywhere in the world. It's not about emotions anymore. It's about money. Everything is about money, and everywhere where, there's no more. There's less passion, but I don't think that there's less passionate bands. There is a lot of passionate bands, but nobody's investing them. So they record an album at home, let's say, or somewhere
for $1,000.
For $1,000, yeah, and then they put it on Spotify, and nobody's listening to it because nobody knows that this band is excellent.
Well, and this was the way Spotify
way different
works
before.
Is you basically have to sign the rights of your songs over to a company to put it on Spotify, and that makes people not want to put this stuff on Spotify. But I am going to disagree that it is about money, because you create your audience. It's not grassroots anymore, because I do agree that it was expensive to prop up all these metal bands, but now how many techno bands are out there? And there's probably like hundreds of millions, because anyone can make it with loops and even using AI. But the thing is, there's still people doing metal bands, and people are listening to it. As far as like trends go, because house music in the 90s was huge. And then it all really went away in the late 90s. I mean, it might be different over in Germany or Europe in general, but it was really big for like 4 years in the 90s. And then now, and then there's still clubs, but it's more like EDM. It was dubstep a few years ago. But there's more bands popping up that sound like Slayer and Cannibal Corpse than almost any other genre of music that was like popular for a brief window. Like there's not really like a new wave of like bands that sound like B.B. King or Jimi Hendrix or even Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin.
There is.
Well, I'm not to the degree that there is still like thrash and death and black metal bands popping.
Yeah, of course, because thrash metal, let's say, it's a subculture. So the subculture is always its own channels. But if you think like in the 70s, like let's say Led Zeppelin was like today a Taylor Swift. It was a major product.
Yes.
But it was real. It was not constructed.
Yes.
It was a real band where a label invested in this band. Now it turned in the 90s, they found out, okay, we are the ones who make stars. We decide
Yes.
who's going to be the next
Yeah.
star. So if you see, you had like in the, let's say, 70s, 80s, you had like real stars like David Bowie, like
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson,
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
Madonna, Prince.
Yeah.
So these times are gone a little bit. Now it's I think it's more important to always find someone, a new product for the market that sells well. Of course, you have some that stands out, like Adele, yeah. But it's a very constructed business right now, and this is why, of course, you will have more success doing death metal because it has a subculture, as like we will have with Antirope, because with Antirope we are mixing styles, we're not real metal. This I remember when we were talking to Eclipse Records, and they were asking me like, how would you name your music? And we were like, oh, I don't know. It's rock music, yeah, but we have a lot of influences, heavy and doom and some post metal influences, some progressive, but and even some mainstream influences, yeah. But and we mix it because with Antirope, we don't care any money. We just do it because we have been musicians all alive, and if we don't make music, we will be depressed, you know. So we need the music. So when we formed Antirope, we said we don't care if the song is metal, rock. We just do music, and then at the end, there's an album or some songs, and they sound like they sound. And if somebody likes it, it's fine. If they don't like it, it's fine too, because we do it because we want to do it. But it's very difficult. So at the end, our label said, yeah, okay, let's call it alternative metal. Yeah, alternative metal. But there's some alternative metal band that doesn't fit it. So it's
Like
very...
Tool?
Yeah, but
I've heard Tool classified as quote unquote alternative metal, but I wouldn't call them that.
Yeah, Tool are classified. So that everything is classified in alternative metal, even Nickelback, you know. So
Well, there's no accounting for taste.
So if you see Nickelback and Tool, this is so totally different, but it's in the same. But so this is the reason what I wanted to say, that this alternative metal has not this strong subculture like death metal. Death metal, you know what you get. Alternative metal, you don't know what you get. Not at all. So so it's I think it's these subcultures they have a lot of fans, so it's more easy, I think.
But it has fans despite having no real mainstream push, because the thing is, in the 80s, like, there were clubs that were where you could go see the local metal band, and that doesn't really exist anymore. But despite all that, like, thrash metal particularly has endured, and it was killed off. We had a guest on that confirmed that they said at MTV, turn off the metal. We're not playing it anymore. And it wasn't because it wasn't bringing in money. They wanted to shift focus to something else.
Yeah, but what thrash metal band came out, like, let's say, in the mid-90s? It was only like the old ones, like Megadeth, Exodus.
It wasn't until about the early to mid 2000s when young people started, like, okay, we need to play thrash band or thrash music, because at that point you didn't need to, because you still had plenty of thrash bands that were putting stuff out. And it takes a while for that ripple effect, because no one's making the good thrash outside of, like, a few select bands. So there's no need to do it. You don't need to fill that vacuum. So that is what I think.
But I'm not sure. I think if you're a new band and you have no promotion, nobody will know that you exist, and you will not have any success. Because as I'm a producer, I produced, like, I don't know, like 20 years ago, a thrash metal bands with guys that were like 15, 16 years old. I was and they were excellent. And I was looking at them and I said, hey, when this music that you're playing was born, you weren't born. So how do you know this music? And they were like, yeah, my father
Well, of course.
listens
Well,
to
yeah,
Slayer.
of course, people
Yeah.
have to hear it from someone. But my point is that, and I've said this a billion times. People aren't making new grunge bands, but people are making new thrash metal bands.
But also there's the element that we've touched on this show before, where you could be as talented, the most talented person, but that doesn't automatically mean you're going to be successful. Like, would you agree with that, Patrick? Okay. All
Absolutely. Right. And when you said there's no new grunge band, but there's thrash metal bands, I don't agree. The thrash metal is a subculture. So of course there's new thrash metal bands. Grunge was like a major product in the 90s. It was like Geffen Records, It was not it started as a subculture, but it went to a major music.
Well, there's more to it than that, and we have found some interesting stuff on it. And we had a guest on who's a big dum-dum, but he let it slip that radio executive or music executives would go to Seattle because they would sex traffic women there, and then they discovered a lot of those Seattle bands, and then they just chose that to be the next thing. And it wasn't
but I think
it wasn't grassroots at all. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I agree. But I think if you do let's say a grunge band now, and you're looking for the labels will say, "Hey, man, the 90s are gone."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So it's like our music. We know, of course, we do what we want. As I told you, we don't try to be something. We just play music, but we know that it's 100% 90s. It's not like modern. It's maybe there's some modern little bit influence, but if you listen to our album, it's a 90s. It's like a 90s record,
right?
And
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. A little delay.
Sorry. No, so no major or big label or something will sign such a music. They will say, "Hey guys, you're like 25 years too late."
And there's still dedicated big metal labels. There's still Century Media, Nuclear Blast, Earache, even like Seasons in the Mist.
But
there's no like Heroin Nation records or like Gun and Mouth Sadness Flannel records. Like they're still the big the torch is still being carried for metal, despite all major record labels trying their best to leave it in the 80s. And when I say Metallica's to blame, they were the avatar for the death of metal. Like Metallica didn't wake up one day and say, let's kill this. No, they were just the ones that the record label said, we're going to give them the big push. We're going to spend the millions and millions to make them a household name. Because they could have pushed, they could have, said like, whatever, the Black Album, you can put it out on whatever they're on. And they could have said, now this Countdown to Extinction, we're going to make that the new thing. That album could have been the Black Album. There's no reason that you couldn't have
It's much better.
I agree with that completely, but it's just that the Black Album was the one that they picked to do it, and Metallica was the band that did it. And Metallica said, we'll help you destroy this thing and turn it from the drum beats to like the power groove slow chug. It's sad but true. Which that should be the story of Metallica. Sad but true.
Sad but true.
I agree. I don't disagree about that. But I think even if Metallica wouldn't have done this,
they would have sucked anyway.
No, and the real creative years were gone. Like the best records for me in thrash metal were like 86, 87, and in the beginning of 90s there was like Forbidden in these bands, but they sounded different. They were more modern, and so the typical
chasing that Black Album paycheck. They all started doing it.
Absolutely.
Maybe. Countdown to Extinction.
Testament did it.
Countdown to Extinction for sure. Or even Euthanasia.
Souls of Black, even Divine Intervention. Half that album is slow chug. Creator did it. Who am I forgetting? Sounds of White Noise.
Exodus. Didn't Exodus?
Yeah,
Force,
Force of Habit. They all did it. That's my point. Is they all did it. They all said, okay, well, this is where the money is. And those guys were at an age where like, well, I'm not living with my parents anymore. I got to eat. I need to pay
to make some money.
I got to make some money. And they all did it. And that was the trend that was set by the Black Album, selling, 2 trillion copies.
But that's kind of what I was. Well, yeah, I think this the same. But that was kind of what I was saying before. Like when albums like Rain and Blood or even Show No Mercy were done, there was a lot of passion, and then suddenly it switched to the whole music business. I think it's not only the band fault; it's also the fault of the label saying, "Hey guys, we need a single. Hey
it's
guys,
the music
we need
industry.
to sell that."
Yeah, it is the music industry because the
so
thing
it's everything together.
It's one thing if you're, like the band Possessed, like they recorded 7 churches over like spring break when they were in high school. It's one thing.
But that was great.
Of course it was. But my point is it's one thing to record an album when you're still living with your parents and there's no obligation to actually have to pay rent and just like we can do whatever we want. And then you're a certain age, like, okay, well, I have kids now. And I have to eat. I have to feed my kids. I have to buy the necessities to survive. Okay, so we need to start making money. But the thing is, the audience hasn't evolved or changed. They just shifted it. Because if you took like the Limp Bizkit audience, like what was it, like the Woodstock 99, if that was Slayer playing Rain and Blood, if that was Megadeth playing Peace Sells, if that was Exodus playing A Fabulous Disaster, you would get the same.
I love that song.
Yeah, you'd get the same reaction from the crowd. They weren't just like, yo, this is the new stuff. This is what I like. I don't like grandpa's music. That was just what they were familiar with. Going back to, I had a guitar teacher and I said, why do people like Lamb of God? And then he said, because they don't know better. And that's basically what it comes down to is when people like a modern band versus a classic band, it's because they don't know the classic band exists. If you were to do a focus group for young people that like, whatever modern metal is now, which I don't even think exists, like that whole like post like seeing the hardcore stuff, like Bullet for My Valentine, Atreyu, Falling in Reverse, all that crap. That's not.
I don't like that stuff.
No, of course not. But that's like
Falling
the modern
in Reverse.
Metal.
Yeah, well, Falling in Reverse, that's like pop music, no? It's
exactly.
It's like constructed music. Yeah.
Yes, it is. But that was the new metal. But I'm saying if you played like a younger audience, if you played that and then you played classic thrash, they wouldn't be like, ew, that's like grandpa's music. They would prefer the classic thrash.
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure because I have a son, he's like 13 years old. And I brought him to Slayer concerts when he was like 6 years old.
But was he already into
Slayer.
hard rock and metal? That's what I'm talking about.
He was, he was also into the 80s bands like Cinderella. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I let him choose.
Cinderella's a great band though. They're not Winger.
Yeah. No, they're not Winger, exactly. Especially the Long Cold Winter was a great album.
Yeah. Cinderella's great. We love Cinderella here.
We do.
So I have like, I think 1,000 vinyl records, so my kids, of course, I let them, hey, check out this record and check out this record. So they found out what they like. And, but but nowadays with their friends, they would never listen this old music. They prefer like Limp Bizkit, So my son likes Slayer. He also likes Cinderella, but he also likes Limp Bizkit. So,
when he gets older, he'll learn. When you're a kid, you like candy for dinner, but when you get older, you're like, I'd rather have a steak.
But I was a kid. I just listened to rock and metal, nothing else. But it was a different time. Now they have YouTube. Now they have Spotify.
Sure.
So friends of them send them a how do you say, a playlist. When I remember when I was young, I went into the record store. We had these headphones. listening to the records, and then we found out like, oh, this one is great, and we bought it with the money we had. We didn't have much money, so this was like gold. We took it home, we looked at the cover, we read the lyrics, and everything was so exciting. Nowadays, when I talk to my son and I see how he's consuming music, like it's totally normal, oh, playlist, and I say, hey, listen to whole albums, not playlists. And then I'm telling him, I said like, hey, I had to pay like $20 to have an album, and I
Kids
couldn't
these days.
listen to it. Yeah, so the days have changed. So the friends are a big influence, and you don't have this. When I remember when I was young, you had in Germany, you had the metal fans, and they only listened to metal. Then you had the rap fans, like Public Enemy, Run DMC, and this stuff, and then you had the pop fans. The pop fans were the guys listening to Michael. Oh no, Depeche Mode were the new wave guys,
the mods,
the dark guys. You had the mods, exactly. So you had really like different.
People had a thing. That was it. People had like, this is my thing.
Exactly. And now they listen to everything. They have playlists, and on the playlist there's Metallica, Master of Puppets, and then there's Limp Bizkit, and then there's the
Weird Al Yankovic,
a really boring rap song.
Yes.
So it's not the same spirit where you are a total metalhead and nothing else. Of course, there is still also these kind of kids, but less. I remember the fights we had in school. Oh, you like Michael Jackson? Oh, that's shit, and nowadays it's different. It's very different.
I'm going to say the reason for that is because there used to be a semblance of community, and then like you would see someone with long hair and a leather jacket, and you'd be like, okay, that's essentially the gang affiliation, but not like the violent gang, more like the Sharks and the Jets, where people like snap their fingers and dance. It's like one of those type of gangs where you're like, hey, you like Motorhead? They'd be like, of course I like Motorhead. I'm wearing a Judas Priest shirt. Like, do you like Megadeth? Of course I like Megadeth. I'm wearing an Exodus shirt. Like, and then that was just kind of how you become friends with someone, like in your teenage years, where now they don't really have that because everything is like a terrible, boring amalgamation of just like mud culture. There's no real like whatever. But
music.
But people like the classic metal more than any other musical genre, because like you're talking about like the new wavers or whatever. Like Depeche Mode is one of my favorite bands, but
I love them.
But there are no like new wavers don't exist. Now there are plenty of people that like Depeche Mode and the Smiths and Erasure and the Cure or whatever, but there's no real like new wavers like there were in the 80s. But there are still punks. Punks are mostly like degenerate drug addicts at this point, but there's plenty of like actual like dedicated metal people that will still buy records. It's not like it was in the 80s. Like hey, want to go down to the club? Exciter is opening for Slayer or something like that. Hyrax.
I saw Malice with Slayer.
yeah, exactly. Like that used to be a thing where that's not really a thing anymore, but there's still people that do hold on to it because that's more appealing than any other, like with the exception of possibly like juggalos. Like the juggalo subculture is still pretty big. I don't know, maybe the metal is probably much bigger because
metal is still a big community. We're just a little bit older, but I think the one of the main problems is that music nowadays, since Spotify, is nothing special. It's like normal. Not. It's like food and a drink and music and something is playing. And when we were young, music was something special because you didn't have so much money, so you had to decide, what will I do with my money? Will I buy some nice, or will I go to the record store? And so every record store. Of course, you always go to the record store, and this was really like something special, and it's not now. When I say to my son, listen to this and that album, he says to Siri, like, play this album, and it plays this album, So there's nothing special about it. You didn't spend your money.
Yeah, we had a guest on a month or so ago who was talking kind of the similar aspect about listening to music is much more passive. And he's like, I like to go to the record player, and you go out of your way, take the time, and instead of like I don't know, kids these days, or you might be doing homework and you're listening to music, but you're not really, it's just kind of background noise, or you're cooking or whatever. Instead of like, you don't just sit in a room and listen to music, and that's like what you're doing. You might probably have the TV on, you're streaming 3 different things, or
you're
like
shaving, you're doing your taxes, you're chopping a watermelon, you're driving.
When I was 14, music and girls was the most important thing in life. And now music,
nothing's changed. Come on,
it's a part of the life, but not the most important part of the life.
Yeah. Neither of those things are important for the young generation. Are you kidding?
Gaming.
Yeah, I think less than in our generation. Yeah. Nowadays everything's social media. You meet girls through social media, So
and Spotify is basically social media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so everything is coming together. Social media, Spotify.
That's why it's this muddy amalgam of where like nothing is special, and it's just another part of your daily routine.
Exactly, and I think this is also a reason that kills metal. Not totally. This metal will never die. But so it's just music. It's and if you listen to metal as background music, it's the wrong music. Then it's stressy. I think metal for me was always the best when you go to bed, everything's dark, and you listen to an album and you hear things you never heard at daytime because you just concentrate on the music. So these times are gone.
Yeah, we had David Ellefson on our show, and he said something very interesting. I think when they were recording for Dieth, and they recorded some like music video in Poland, and the producer told him essentially, he's like, "Yeah, you guys make music for people to take drugs to," and he's like, "What?" I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, well, I don't take drugs to listen to metal, but
just
I just thought. Yeah, exactly. Just an enhancer. No, it's interesting that like the producers, that's in their mind, or I don't know.
At least some producers.
Yeah, that one. Maybe he was on drugs. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of musicians were on drugs in the 70s and 80s because I saw this so many times in my life as a producer. You work with a band, and the singer's doing a great job, like when you're working on the song, not recording, because when you produce a band, you set up the song sometimes, you work with them, and the singer is really like putting a excellent vocal line on it. And when you start recording, he's more like, oh, now it's the recording, I have to sing it very well. And then he's singing it boring. The emotion is gone because he tries to do his best job. And this is, I think, one reason why in the 1780s and 90s they took a lot of drugs, because your brain was like out. You were like, And so rock music and drugs will always have it will always be a subject, I think, because many musicians have their best performance when they have the ability to switch off their brains when they take drugs. But I don't mean that you need drugs to do that,
Right.
So no.
Well, again, I think I think that goes back to like the Carcass and the Swan Song. Like, if you're good at it, like if you can do it, some people, like DJ, he drives better when he has a few.
Yeah, exactly. Never got pulled over driving home drunk, right?
See, exactly.
You've
been pulled over plenty of times driving sober. What does that?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Never drunk. So
yeah, and again, I think that some people, it works for them, and because I'm an opponent of try something new for the sake of, but if you have an idea, like, hey, I think I can incorporate this. Like, do you like Danzig?
Yeah, I like Danzig, especially the second album.
I was going to say, on Danzig 2, I'm the One.
Yeah. That's an amazing album.
Yes, it is. It's a wonderful album, and then like the last song on it, well, it's not the last song. The last song is Pain in This World. But the second to last song, Girl, like it sounds like a Molly Hatchet song. But Danzig has like a few styles, like he kind of stays within kind of a spectrum of styles. Like he does dark very well, like How the Gods Kill or Possession. But then you have something like a Girl or The Hunter, which are just like 70s blues songs. But then he does something.
Yeah, it's very bluesy.
Yeah, and then I'm the One, which is like a BB King song, like that.
Or Elvis Presley.
Well, yeah, sure, that too. But some people can branch out, and you can twist it a little bit. Like, do you like Behemoth?
Not so much. I'm not, or let's say I'm
just
not
not
so much
familiar
into
with them. Yeah, so because they started out like a very raw black metal band, and then they just became like a perfect death metal band. And so some people can operate within, they can stretch a little bit. So what I'm trying to say is, if you record music sober, don't just try doing drugs to improve your performance. That's what I'm saying here.
Of course not. We have one song on the debut album. When I listen to it, it's the end of the song Blackout 2. I think, wow, it sounds like we're on heroin, but we were sober the whole record. So, so it just sounds like this. No, I don't say, I never said you need drugs to have a performance. I just said that some musicians think or thought or that if they take drugs, it's more easy to them to switch off their brain. Yeah, but I don't think that I don't think it's necessary. Of course not. I even think that a sober musician will bring you the better performance than the one who's like, especially if somebody's drunk, you can just send him home. You will not have the performance you want for a record. So I was always working with, or mostly with, sober musicians. But I can understand why in the 70s, where everything was so new and everything was so exciting, they thought, oh, we need like drugs to make this this kind of music. Yeah, but of course it's wrong. Of course.
And we'll use this final example of the sober and the whacked out is Shout at the Devil and Dr. Feelgood. I think both of these records are great. I think Motley Crue's only really good records are the first two and Dr. Feelgood.
Exactly, I agree. Absolutely.
And Dr. Feelgood is them sober.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Dr. Feelgood is a great record.
It is.
But yeah, and the first one, I like the Too Fast for Love.
Yes,
I like this album a lot.
That one's my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. And Dr. Feelgood has like
very heavy,
excellent songs like Dr. Feelgood or Kickstart My Heart.
Yes.
But there were a few cheesy songs on it. On the debut, on Too Fast for Love, there was no cheese.
I think "Come On and Dance" is a little cheesy. That's the only one that I'm not a big fan of.
Okay, you're right.
That's the only one though. Right. That's the only one. Come on and dance.
But
that's all I gotta say.
But On With the Show is great.
I love that. Take Me to the Top. Even of course, Live Wire.
Live Wire, it's cool too.
Great.
Yeah, I like the old Motley Crue, but I don't like what they're doing now. So the last one with and without Mick Mars and artificial intelligence to do the vocals of Vince Neil, that's all a little bit crazy.
So the long story short, Motley Crue sucks. They made a few albums that were good, and then everything else they did sucks, and that's evident by what they're doing now.
Yeah. They're dead. They should have stopped, but I think they need money.
Do they?
That's what I think.
I think they want money. I don't know if they need it.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. They want money. Okay. But we don't know how much money they spend in their life, so we don't know. Maybe they need it.
Ric Flair used to say that when he would get a check for $10,000, he would spend $20,000. So I don't
exactly.
know the spending habits of Motley Crue.
Yeah,
but
when you read books like The Dirt or from Ace Frehley, So these guys spend a lot of money,
Living
like
large.
yeah, a lot of big cars, girls, drugs, and houses, and so you can spend it easily.
Oh, of course.
So
Oh, yeah.
you need a new tour to get some money back. Yeah.
Yep.
But because I don't think someone who has been a rock star needs money if he takes care of the money. But if he doesn't take care of the money and he doesn't want to change his rock star life and always spend a lot of money, he will have to go on tour until he's dead.
Yeah, I think like a band like Iron Maiden, they don't need the money, but they love playing music. Like
Yeah.
they seem like pretty decent human beings. I haven't heard anything really negative about them or having any crazy addiction issues or whatever. But
No, I don't think so. Even
Yeah.
Iron Maiden didn't write the dirt.
no,
no, and Bruce Dickinson is like flying. So
yeah, he's an intelligent
needs-
dude.
He's
he
their
is.
pilot. He writes children's
Yeah.
books. He's like a degree
Exactly
in history. Like, I think a master's, possibly a PhD. I'm not sure. I think it's just a master's.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's an intelligent guy. Yeah, but not all of them are. Like
that's very true.
Like
When I see
like Nikki Sixx. He never graduated high school, or like Vince Neil, who never graduated high school. There's a lot of
yeah,
or,
but
or
apparently
like,
Nikki
or like,
Sixx
or like Tommy
never-
Lee, who didn't graduate high school. There's some dumb people out there.
Did
Yeah,
Mick
yeah, of
Mars
course.
graduate high school?
I think he did, but
That's
Mick
why he got
Mars
kicked out.
He was like 35 when he joined their band.
That is true.
But apparently Nikki Sixx didn't even play bass on the first records.
Oh,
That's
that
even
doesn't
worse, I think.
doesn't surprise me. Well, Mick Mars is the reason that they had that good sound that they did.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
And then they
But
kicked him out.
but it surprises me because the bass lines on the first 3 records were not like so difficult to play. So I think it's strange that he didn't play the bass.
Well, Tom Araya didn't play bass on the first few Slayer albums, and live.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
and
think it was
live.
Kerry King, right?
Yeah, I think it was, or Jeff Hanneman. It was one of them.
Okay.
And live, he just plucked the open E string. They used to call him open E Araya.
Yeah, and he plays like so 4 times less notes than the guitar players.
Yes, and if
Tom
you look
Araya,
at
when he's playing.
early videos, he's just like live, he's plucking, and then the later ones he's using a pick because
Yeah,
he
right.
eventually started playing the songs.
So he got better, not like Lars.
Well, he learned. Yeah, exactly. He did get better. Just like Lars.
Hey, improvement.
Well, good on him. Well, I think we've kept you long enough. We did a little longer than you wanted to, but I think we had a good show. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Patrick.
I think it's great. We just with all these great bands, we just forgot
Sodom.
naming Typo Negative.
Okay.
The first record, Slow, Deep, and Hard, is great. So
how about Carnivore?
this one? Yeah, I like Carnivore too. Yeah, I like,
record.
especially the second one is great. Both were great. Yeah, Carnivore. I like all this Peter Steele stuff. I think he was a great musician.
I like Peter Steele more as a personality than a musician, and I have nothing really negative to say about him as a musician, but I think as a personality, he was pretty ridiculous and pretty funny. Like the things that he
I loved his interviews. The interviews were great,
Yeah,
and
I
they
think
were
he's a pretty
so
funny
honest. Like on Bloody Kisses. So why is your record now like soft? He was like, yeah, I'm older than 30. I need to make money,
Yeah,
So
Exactly.
others think the same, but they won't tell it. And Peter
Exactly.
Steele just said how it was. And this is I liked the personality of Peter Steele a lot. Yeah.
It was a tragic
crazy
passing.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think,
sad because
I think
I
on their
like-
last tour they opened for Celtic Frost, or Celtic Frost opened for them. I can't remember, but Peter Steele was looking bad. Like he was wearing when he played here at the House of Blues, he was wearing a baggy sweatshirt, and he looked like a homeless person. He just looked so bad. It was like, oh gosh, this guy is ready for the tombstone. Yeah, and then he died.
I saw him
after that.
I saw him once in the October Rust tour, and it was quite impressive how he was singing. It was really, really he was a great live singer, I think.
Yeah, they opened with a Beatles song, and he wasn't even singing at this point. It was
Okay.
really strange. It was just like they wheeled this guy out, and he was
Jeez.
just one foot in the grave. It was really sad. And then he went shortly after that.
Yeah, and we had a guest on who he had to make a decision to play guitar and type a negative or for Kelly Clarkson. So
Oh,
he went with Kelly Clarkson, Aben Eubanks.
my God.
Really, so
Oh,
it was kind of he made the right choice, but you know
Well, he
you
was
gotta-
over
so-
30. He had to make money.
exactly.
yeah. I would have gone to typo negative, even
Okay.
if I get like 10 times more with Kelly
Well,
Clarkson.
it probably depended on the state that Peter Steele was in at the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm talking about the
That-
old
that-
times. Like
yeah,
slow,
that may have
Yeah,
been
this
slow
was-
deep in
that may have
art.
been the factor. He may have walked in and just he had the needle hanging out of his arm. Like, oh, geez, maybe
Okay, yeah. Okay.
we didn't get too
Okay.
deep into that.
No.
Yeah, but thank you very much. It was nice talking about these old times of metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we grew up with a kind of a similar music altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, please come back anytime. Next time, if you want, we could talk about the degenerate rappers in the mainstream music, but it was fun talking metal. And, you know, before we let you go, Patrick, I'd love for you to, you know, plug anything you'd like with Antirope or Eclipse Records or anything you're working on or anything you want to plug real quick. And also if you can leave us with a song that we can play to close it out.
One of your
Yeah,
songs.
so
Your song. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So let's close it with our first single, "Beautiful Liar," I would say. And Antirope, everybody can listen to our album on Spotify or Apple Music. It's the debut album is called Amnesia, and we're working right now on the second album, and the second album is gonna be, I think, even deeper, more heavy, more, yeah. We're recording right now, and I'm very happy. Let's say it like this.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much. We'll be looking out for that. And, you know, here is Beautiful Liar by Antirope. And Patrick, thank you again. Come back anytime and please stay safe out there.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thanks.
Beautiful liar, you're lovely disease. You wanted to be sure, you wanted to kill. Where do we go, baby?